Living Clean, Living Well is a presentation of the Canadian Centre for Abuse Awareness.
It's September the 8th, and it's Recovery Day here in Canada. Welcome to Living Clean, Living Well, live here on CTS Television. So glad to have you with us tonight. I'm Teresa Cruz. I am your host, and we are so proud to start things off with a great announcement. We have a new title sponsor for our show, and this is fabulous news for us, and it's fabulous news for you as well, because without our great sponsors, we just wouldn't be able to bring the show to you. So we would like to say thank you for Freedom for Addiction, the new treatment center that has opened up in Aurora, Ontario, and they have come aboard as a title sponsor. So you're going to get a chance to meet them in the upcoming weeks, and we're so glad to have them aboard. We are Canada's only live interactive television talk show. We go across this great country of ours as well as into the United States, and we are here for you, and we're very proud about what we do here. So thanks to Freedom from Addiction. Welcome aboard. And I'd like to say welcome to our two guests tonight in the show. Our regular contributor, Dr. Vera Tarman. Hello, Dr. Tarman.
Hello, Teresa. Always glad to be back.
You betcha. And Mike McKinnon joins us first time in the show. Welcome.
Thanks, Teresa. It's good to be here.
You bet. So big day for us. Recovery Day here in Canada. It started off in Vancouver last year. It's going coast to coast. We had various functions going on right across on a lot of the different cities. Mike, it's great to see the whole community coming together and celebrating recovery, don't you think?
I think it's fantastic, regardless of the addiction. You know, it's great to be together for the common purpose.
And Dr. Tarman, you were here at the one in Toronto.
I was.
Yeah, so how was it? You also spoke, didn't you?
I did speak. It was a really wonderful experience. There were a couple of politicians there. There were musicians there. There were authors there. And Sept Johnson spoke. And there were lots of people who came out for the first day. It was just a wonderful show up, and it was beautiful weather.
A very poignant moment, I understand.
Yes.
And they let some balloons go right at the beginning. Tell us about that.
That's right. These were balloons that were to represent basically. Each one of those balloons represents one person. It's a bit sad, but it's still, we want to acknowledge this. Each person who has died in addictions. We wanted to acknowledge their presence since they couldn't be there in person.
So you were speaking. What was the topic of what you had to say today?
Well, I wanted to really say that the flip side, I mean, generally when we talk about addictions, it's with the stigma and how we negatively see people with addictions. And I wanted to say that actually people with addictions, there's a positive side as well. Those are also the people that tend to be more willing to step outside of the routine. They're willing to walk into danger. They are essentially the people who are explorers, are writers, are visionaries. And so, I mean, I left with the statement of, they're the champions, really, of society. And I think that I said, from an evolutionary point of view, I said, it's our fate to be great. Let's celebrate recovery.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Well done. I can still see the energy.
Yeah.
It must have been a great day and the great energy just flowing.
It was just a wonderful first time for Toronto.
Now joining us live on the telephone right now from Vancouver is one of the people that's responsible for bringing Recovery Day to Canada. She just received an award in Washington, D.C. for her work. Would you please welcome Anne-Marie McCullough. Hi, Anne-Marie. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much. How are you?
Oh, we're doing well. So how was Recovery Day in Vancouver today?
It was fantastic. I couldn't be more pleased. We had our MP, John Weston, there. We had a city councillor. We were surprised with a proclamation from our BC Premier, Christy Clark. She declared the actual province declared Recovery Day. So that was just an amazing surprise. We had, as you had in Toronto, we had musicians, we had speakers, beautiful sunny day, lots of people came, a beautiful gospel choir finished the day. I just couldn't be more thrilled.
That's wonderful. Now, you got the ball rolling up here in Canada. The idea was from the United States. How did you get this idea and bring it up to Canada? Tell us about that journey.
Yeah, last summer, myself and Lorinda Strang, the executive director at the Orchard with me, we were sent this video for a clip to a movie called The Anonymous People that was at the time just in production. And that movie depicts this recovery advocacy movement. It's now complete. The movie can be seen. Anyone can go and see The Anonymous People. I definitely encourage your viewers to check it out. So we saw this film, and it was for our film festival that it was sent to us. Somebody thought we might enjoy this for our film festival. And anyways, we saw this movie and we thought, oh my goodness, look at all these rallies. They've been doing this for years in the United States. We have got to bring this to Canada. So of course, I've since found out that they've been celebrating Recovery Month since 1989 in the United States, and they've been having these rallies since 2006. So we set about putting together an event, and we put it together in 8 weeks, and it was just an absolute, joy and a labor of love to do it. And Victoria also got on board last year when they heard what we were doing, and they had a recovery day. And then a couple of other cities, Ottawa and Calgary, they got proclamations, but they couldn't get an event happening that quickly. And of course, this year, 12 cities across Canada, I mean, from coast to coast, literally from Victoria to Fredericton, had an event today. So, the Anonymous People and Greg Williams, who produced it, and Faces and Voices of Recovery, I have to give all the credit to them, because they, and of course, I believe in my higher power, had a lot to do with bringing this all together for me, but it's like a dream come true.
Now, another dream come true. You were just honored down in Washington, D.C. Tell us what you won and how the event was.
Well, again, Lorinda Strang and myself went down to Washington. We were honored at SAMHSA, which is the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration. That's the branch of the government, I guess, similar perhaps to our CCSA here in Canada. And they have been, as I said, celebrating Recovery Month. So at their launch of Recovery Month, they honor a few people. We were honored for Rally of the Year. We were the first rally that happened outside of the United States. And so we went down there to accept this award, and it was just unbelievably humbling to be around all these recovery advocates, people who've been, fighting this fight for a long time, and Lorinda and I were very honored.
Well, we've got some great news, folks, because Anne-Marie is coming to Toronto, and this is great because we'll be able to put you here on our set so that we can broadcast you right across Canada and into the U.S. Anne-Marie, you're coming up November 3rd. You're going to come and visit us here?
Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to it. Toronto is my hometown. I grew up there, and I'm really looking forward to coming there and meeting you in person, Teresa. And I thank you so much, and I thank you so much for being, just part of celebrating recovery there in Toronto today. To your two guests, I'm just very grateful to be here with you tonight, and love that we're all celebrating National Recovery Day today.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, making a statement and feeling so great about everything. Anne-Marie McCullough, thank you so much for joining us from Vancouver tonight. Vancouver's very lucky to have you, and we are going to be really glad to meet you on November the 3rd. Anne-Marie will be joining us here, so thank you so much for calling in. So, big day across Canada, a big day for everyone, and probably a big day for many of you. As you know, we like to be here for you. We are going to open up our toll-free lines, as always, if you need help, if you want to ask a question, if you're having struggles, maybe a family member, pick up that phone and give us a call. Our guests tonight, Dr. Vera Tarman and Mike McKinnon. And Mike, I want to get into a little bit of your story before we go to break. I am, as I've gotten into this show, I am amazed at all the time at how many different addictions that there are. Mm-hmm. And we're going to be talking a little bit about food addiction tonight, as well as your general calls. Mike, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story and what the journey that you've been on and the road that you've traveled?
Sure. Basic theme of the story is that I've always been someone who struggled with weight from the time I was a little kid, and struggled with food. I would say that my earliest memories are of eating more than I wanted to, and always being comforted by food. And really through high school and through university, always struggling with weight. Gain 10 pounds, lose it through exercise, through starvation diets, that sort of thing. And gain a little bit more and then lose some, gain a little bit more and lose some, until I finally found myself in 2003 at a place where I was about 85 pounds overweight. And I'd been an athlete in high school. There was no reason why I should be 85 pounds overweight. I was a runner, a football player, a weightlifter, all that sort of thing. Lost my weight, went on yet again another diet, lost my weight, but noticed over the years that some of the old behaviors started creeping back in. And
When you say old behaviors, how were you able to track that back?
well, I started, reintroducing foods into my eating plan that I knew were the foods that got me in trouble in the first place. And foods that I had said that I'm going to stay away from these foods. So I'd sworn off them, to use an expression. I said, I'm not going to eat these anymore. you know?
But other than the food, you said you had tracked back some of these behaviors even further to something that you had dealt with earlier. Did you want to share that with our audience as well?
You're referring to when I was a child?
Well, you had mentioned that you were recovering alcoholic.
Oh, the alcoholism, yes, absolutely, yeah.
How quickly we forget.
Yeah, no. Recovered alcoholic, yeah, I dealt with that about 19 years ago, and I realized with the food, what had happened was the patterns of eating looked an awful lot like the drinking. With alcoholism, I came to realize that I had a brain when I wasn't drinking that would think about drinking, and then when I started drinking, I couldn't tell you when I was going to stop. And in about 2008, I started to look at it honestly when I started to hear about food addiction and say, there are certain foods that when I eat, it's an awful lot like drinking. And for me, I had to identify those foods eventually as being foods that contain wheat, flour of any kind, or processed sugar of any kind. And what I discovered after that is that when I eliminated them from my diet, after going through an initial phase of withdrawal and the pain of withdrawal and all that good stuff, I didn't want them anymore. And when I didn't want them anymore, I started to notice that my eating was controlled. That I ate when I was hungry and I stopped when I was full, which was strikingly like what normal people do. And my weight didn't fluctuate from that point on. So when I'm abstinent, this is called abstinence in the plan that I follow. When I'm abstinent of wheat, flour, and sugar, it's much like the alcoholic, or when I stopped drinking, abstinent from alcohol, life started to get okay again. So.
Wonderful. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for sharing that. Now our viewers will know, your journey. And also, don't forget, we are here for all of your general questions as we celebrate Recovery Day here right across Canada. Time for our first break on Living Clean, Living Well. But when we come back, our phone lines are already filling up. We will get to your questions and talk a little bit more to Mike McKinnon and Dr. Vera Tarman. Welcome back to Living Clean, Living Well. It's Recovery Day here in Canada. My guests tonight are Dr. Vera Tarman and Mike McKinnon. We're going to open up our toll-free line. Should we take a phone call before we get back into more discussions? I never hate to keep anyone waiting. Let's go to line one, and Lisa's calling in tonight from Niagara Falls. Hi there, Lisa. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for taking my call.
You bet, Lisa. Have you got a question or a comment tonight?
Yes, well, it's more of a comment. I am not a street drug user, but because of my medical history, I spent 5 years on morphine and fentanyl, which were prescribed to me. Fentanyl, they tell me, is 100 times stronger than morphine. And because my injury happened at work, I'm on WSIB for the rest of my life. So at an early age, my life stopped. And I had started 22 years ago, I started a not-for-profit organization for victims of violent crimes. And I knew that that was something that I was going to do for the rest of my life. So that I do continue to do today. But back to my situation, I went to a tribunal, through a tribunal with WSIB, and won the right to go to any detox center I wanted to come off these medications, these prescriptions that I knew were killing me. And I wanted off them so bad. I couldn't get anybody to even accept me anywhere in Canada or the U.S. because of the amounts of morphine and fentanyl I was on.
So you're talking the treatment centers wouldn't accept you?
Would not accept me.
Have you heard of that, Dr. Turman?
Yeah, typically most of the time the treatment center wants the person to be off of the opiate, and they ask the person to go into a detox first where you get off of them. And it's the detox's job to do that, not the treatment center, because it's a different type of care. When you're coming off of an opiate, it's pretty unpleasant, it's pretty difficult, and it requires sort of moment-by-moment care, what we call supportive care, which is far beyond what a treatment center can do, because they're really wanting you to be available to go into classes and go to meetings and walk around. So it's not so much that they're against it so much as it's just that's not what they're equipped to do. And what you really need to do is get either a medical detox or a regular detox, if you're prepared to do it cold turkey.
Yeah. Lisa, did you go into detox, or were you thinking about it?
I went, when I couldn't find a detox place to take me, being a very stubborn woman, I came home and I flushed all of the morphine and fentanyl down the toilet, and I laid on my living room floor for almost 7 full days, and I just did a lot of praying and said, Lord, if I'm meant to be here, I'll get through this, and if I don't get through it, then it's your will.
Lisa,
Go ahead, Dr. Tarver.
I'm just going to say, Lisa, I'm really sorry that you didn't want to, that you had to do that on your own, because that's exactly what a detox would do, is that they would sit there with you. You laying on the floor for 7 days, that's a pretty horrible experience. I do want to say one more thing, that there are some treatment centers now, and in fact, I think possibly even the new one that's just supporting your new sponsor actually does allow, will introduce methadone. Like, there are ways that some treatment centers will help to detox a person by going on methadone or Suboxone for a short period of time. And that's starting to be introduced more and more now. But in any case, Lisa, I feel terrible for you that you had to do that on your own. It's a very, very unpleasant detox.
But I'm glad Lisa called in, and she's our first phone call, because today we are celebrating recovery. And, obviously, Lisa, a tough journey for you, but you are celebrating your recovery here today, and we thank you so much for sharing. I mentioned that it is Recovery Day across Canada, and it's into its 2nd year now, and it's really taken hold right across Canada. So many different addictions out there, so many things that we have to deal with. Before the break, we were talking to Mike McKinnon, who has come in here tonight to talk to us very honestly about his journey. Before the break, Mike, you were saying that, recovering from alcohol, you had noticed a few things that were triggering into the foods and the same sort of behaviors that you were seeing. So you went into an abstinence-based program. So you were telling us it was wheat, flour, and sugar.
Yeah.
It's a specific plan. Do you follow it 7 days a week?
All the time.
You do.
Yeah. The thing about this plan versus how I lost my weight initially is that there's no cheat meals on this plan. So when I lost my weight, I lost it with someone who does weight loss in the Toronto area, and it was a very good program. It was the best one I could find out there. But the thing about this program is it allowed me to hold on to the foods that were problematic for me in the first place.
So right now
So-
we're taking a look at your
Oh,
before
yeah,
and after.
right.
It's quite dramatic, Mike.
Okay, yeah, that's, so that was me in May of 2003 on the left there. And on the right, that was taken just 2 weeks ago. I was on a business trip up in Peterborough visiting some clients of mine.
Well, you look amazing.
Well, thank you.
What a transformation.
Yeah.
It really is. And Dr. Tarman, you've always been very outspoken on this show about food addiction, and this is something you struggled with as well.
That's right. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And you had quite a weight drop, didn't you?
Yes, that's right. I lost, I was 100 pounds more, well, probably 95 pounds more than I am now. And like Mike, I follow a very strict diet, which some people find rigid, but I find actually quite liberating, and has kept all that weight off. And like Mike, I had the experience where if I would cheat, it would be a yo-yo thing. It would be back and forth, and I'm not surprised when people talk about having the yo-yo syndrome. It's because the moment they start to reintroduce the food, they're back into their trouble.
Yeah. Do you feel that food addiction is given its due within the world? Like, are people actually, addressing this? Are they acknowledging it?
Well, I think before I answer that, I think Mike, because we were talking about that, why don't you say?
So Mike's got something to
Oh,
say about it.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes, he does.
One of the things I do as a profession part-time is I'm a personal trainer. And I find that I can sit down, I always start off with a consultation with a client, and I have a questionnaire, a diagnostic tool that I use to see where they're at in their eating behavior. Because I really have three categories. There's the normal eater, and I get some of those. They just maybe need a little bit of advice. Change this at breakfast, do this at lunch, and you'll lose the 5 pounds that you've been meaning to lose for the past 5 years. Then we have the problem eater, and these people are people who, they may have a significant problem, but you can allow them to cheat once in a while because they can control it. They seem to have that ability, that willpower to control it. But then there's this other subgroup of which I'm a part, the food addict, that, just like what Dr. Tarman said, I agree 100%. The minute I reintroduce that into my diet, what I'm actually doing is I'm introducing a drug, something that makes me feel better, that, and I've seen Dr. Tarman's presentations, it has to do with the neurotransmitter balance in my brain. It literally has a physical effect on me, and I crave more. And I can't stop. So when I present these options to the client, when I get to that third option, if that's what they are, they're a food addict, and if I was to tell them that you have to go to this abstinence-based model of eating, nobody will take it. There's a huge resistance out there to it. The notion that they can never eat this stuff again is unbearable. And I understand it because I've been there personally. I've been at the place where I'm like, you mean I can never have wedding cake at someone's wedding? You mean I can never have
A piece
a
of
dessert?
pizza?
Never, like
A
not
sandwich?
like not just one.
Yeah, and you know, it's not just got to do with the fact that the person doesn't want to give it up. It's what you're saying too, Teresa, or what you're alluding to, that we don't take food addiction seriously. And so that when Mike says on the wedding, I can't have a piece of wedding cake, there is nobody who will say, oh, I understand you're an alcoholic, we'll give you some champagne that's really just grape juice.
Right.
They'll say, come on, Mike, it's your wedding, come on.
Yeah.
And there's no support for this. And it makes it extremely difficult when you don't have that societal support. And then as well, your own desire.
Yeah.
It's because we don't take it seriously.
And it's food, after all. It's not looked at like cocaine or like alcohol. It's just not. It's just food. A little bit won't hurt you. You know.
But still very much a drug when it's in the body.
For me, it's the worst drug I've ever had to deal with, and I've dealt with alcohol on a very serious level. Drugs were part of my story too, but food is by far the toughest one that I've had to deal with. It's one I've had to do the most personal work on. So.
From a physiological point of view, Dr. Tarman, can you tell our viewers a little bit about food addiction and what goes on within the body?
I would like to just add on to what Mike said.
Sure.
That it's been my experience too with my patients that many of them will say, this is the hardest one. I mean, Mike's story, that is so common. I could put down crack even, and that's a very difficult drug to put down. But I can't put down my sugar. it's astounding how difficult it is. And I think it's because it's so ubiquitous, it's everywhere, and it's every minute. It's always in front of us.
Yeah.
It's always there.
It's in your face.
In terms of the neurochemistry, I mean, it ought to be taken as seriously, because when we think about sugar, we think about candy. It's so common, we don't think about it as anything unusual. But if you really think about it, it's a processed, manufactured, hyper-intensive sweet. Sure, you can eat a couple of cherries, you won't get addicted to them. But if you take all the sugar out of that, how is that different than cocaine? You take all the cocaine out of that cocoa leaf, you take all the alcohol and distill it and make it potent and strong. We're talking about something that is overpowering. And that overpowering effect gives us a neurochemical flush in our brain. It doesn't matter what the substance is. That's the addiction. It's what's happening in the brain.
There's a lot of sugar in alcohol. Do you feel that perhaps
Yes.
some people dealing with alcoholism could
Sure.
also be dealing with food addiction?
Absolutely. That's probably why we find alcoholics amongst the most, they have the most difficulty in quitting, because they're quitting the sugar as well as the alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting too that sugar, wheat, same thing. I mean, it affects the liver in the same way. There's a lot of parallels between alcohol and sugar. Yeah.
All right, we're going to take another break here on Living Clean, Living Well, but when we come back, let's take more of your phone calls. What sort of experiences have you had? Do you feel that perhaps maybe you've got a food addiction? Are there some questions that you would like to ask? How about generally? We are celebrating Recovery Day here in Canada, so as always, we are here for all of your questions and comments about any drugs, alcohol, whatever addiction that you may have a question about, either for yourself or for a loved one. Dr. Tarman is in the house, and she's here to answer your questions, along with any helpful support from Mike McKinnon as well. So a second break here on Living Clean, Living Well. We will be right back.
I've had numerous opportunities to get into addiction counseling over the past 5 or 6 years. This one at New Awakenings really appealed to me. First off, the facility here, we've got a swimming pool, there's a gym downstairs. Other side of the fence, golf course, it's fantastic, and the food is, world class. The staff cover all aspects of recovery. These are people with extensive experience in the field, all with the sincere desire to be helpful. If you want a shot at recovery from drug and alcohol addiction, New Awakenings is your best bet. Give us a call, we'll get right back to you.
Welcome back to Living Clean, Living Well. I'm your host, Teresa Cruz, and we're so pleased to have Dr. Vera Tarman with us, our regular contributor, along with Mike McKinnon tonight. Thank you both for joining us. And Recovery Day. What a great day here in Canada. Right across Canada, everybody was celebrating recovery. And we have something else to celebrate. As you know, the Canadian Centre for Abuse Awareness is the proud presenting sponsor of this show. And their big 20th anniversary gala is going to be happening on October the 7th, and it's going to be quite the big event. There's a lot of big names in the Canadian music scene that are going to be there. Top music artists like Jim Cuddy of Blue Rodeo, Alan Frew of Glass Tiger, many more. We've got some NHLers coming in. It's going to be a great evening as we celebrate the wonderful work that the CCAA has done across Canada in the area of abuse awareness. So if you'd like some tickets for this fabulous event, you can also get a tax receipt for a portion of it. Please go to our website at abusehurts.com. So we are talking about your general questions, anything that you might like to ask us about. Dr. Tarman is always great with the advice. As I mentioned before the break, maybe it's for you, maybe it's for a family member. You go ahead and give us a call, and we will do our best to help you. And if we can't help you on the show, we always have some resources. So we just do our best here, don't we, Dr. Tarman?
Yes, we do.
So let's go to our phone lines. Let's call, we've got a caller in on line 4, and John is from Etobicoke tonight. Hi, John. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hi, John. Go ahead. You're live. Go ahead.
Hi. I was just wondering how you can tell if someone is a closet alcoholic.
Great question. Dr. Tarman, do you want to start off?
Well, I have to think about that. That's a good question.
Well, that would be, if I'm, John, you go ahead and define closet alcoholic.
Well, did you say John?
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Well, I'm wondering what, how someone can perform their day, but I still wonder when I get kisses that are turned to the side. It's like, almost like hiding breath. They'll give a cheek instead of a lip, and but they're still a functioning person. It's just, I'm guessing that there's a closet problem. Like,
I have heard of the term functioning alcoholic as well.
Yes.
Does that give you a little bit more information? So people that may be hiding alcohol, maybe
Yeah.
what do you look out for?
Yeah, I mean, there's from a medical point of view, we have some specific questions that we would ask to determine if a person is an alcoholic. And sometimes it's just a question of numbers, like, how much does a person drink? Like, what's considered social drinking versus dangerous drinking? Not necessarily alcoholic drinking, but problem drinking. And we usually designate that for a woman to be not more than 1 or 2 in a day, and if it's 4 to 6 in a week or something like that, or pardon me, at one setting. So we have some specific numbers, and then we also look at behaviors. And it sounds like you've identified one of the things. If a person has a behavioral change in some way, that might indicate that there's something else going on. But this idea about functional drinking or a functional alcoholic versus a problem alcoholic, a lot of people are alcoholics, but they manage, even on 7 or 8 drinks a day, they manage. Are they alcoholics? From a medical point of view, yes, we would say that they are. They might not see themselves as that. Sometimes we ask people to define it themselves. It really depends on what you're looking for. It sounds to me like you are living with somebody and you're wondering yourself, does my wife or my partner or my friend have a problem that I should be worried about? Is that correct?
This is correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Only because I've seen over in the summertime where, we would be driving up north and she would pour into a coffee cup, a coffee, like a hot mug thing, that like one of those big things that you buy where you carry your coffee around or you fill up at Tim Hortons. And she would pour a drink in that even, like, just to go up north or, on the way up. But I don't know what she's doing in between, in between normal visits and stuff. And what I'm curious about is, because we don't live together, what I'm curious about is when she does show up, why I'm getting, like I told you, sideways kisses. It's almost like, oh, I had onions or something. No, I didn't have onions. I had something to drink. Now, what is closet alcoholism? How serious is it? Like, is it something that people can carry for years and hide?
Oh, sure. Absolutely they can. That's actually a very common story. Have you actually spoken to her yourself? Have you actually confronted her?
Not yet.
Okay.
How do you confront someone?
Well, you could just say, you could just say, John, I don't know how you comfortable you would feel this way, but would you be willing to say, I'm concerned about your drinking. What do you think? Just open it up like that and see what they say. And often, if a person is very defensive about it, that's usually a sign. But sometimes it might be that the person will say, you know what, I'm actually worried about it too. I would suggest that be your first point of entry.
Mike, I've seen you nodding your head on a number of things that Dr. Tarman has said. Did you want to have something to add to this conversation? With John?
Basically, John, I guess what I'm thinking is if you're uncomfortable with someone else's drinking, you may want to consider the group Al-Anon. I encourage you to Google them. It's AL-ANON. That's for friends and families of people who have drinking problems, or for anybody who really thinks that they may have been affected by the disease of alcoholism or who are affected by it. What you'd get there is you would get the perspectives of people who've dealt with this, and they would be able to give you a really solid perspective on it.
That's a great source there for you. John, thank you so much for calling in tonight. I hope that has helped. Let's go now to line 3. Deb's calling in from Toronto tonight. Hi, Deb.
Hello.
Hi, Deb. You're live on the show. Go ahead.
Hi. I just wanted to make a comment that I discovered the program that Mike is speaking about just over a year ago. I was a person of close to 300 pounds who tried every diet under that possible, actually, until I found this program and became abstinent from sugar, flour, and wheat. I was never able to maintain my weight, keep it off. Since then, I learned, it was a relief to hear that it was actually an addiction, that I wasn't, it wasn't just a weakness in myself. And abstaining from sugar, flour, and wheat, and with the addition of the 12-step program, I've been able to maintain my weight and keep the weight off and not to go back to that way of eating. And I just believe very firmly that this is the absolute way for me to keep this weight off and not yo-yo diet anymore. And I just wanted to.
Yeah, you know what, Deb, it's so great to hear from you and you know, to validate what's been going on and what Mike has been talking about, and Dr. Tarman has been so vocal. Were you surprised, Deb, when you realized, aha, this is a disease within my body, an addiction within my body, and it, you know, it's physiologically doing this to me, of me gaining weight? Were you surprised?
Absolutely. I had no idea before I had heard Mike speak on this, and it's been a lifesaver to me, the whole program, from start to finish, and I just really understand it much better now, and what I've had to do, the work I've had to do to be abstinent, and I'm very grateful for the program.
Mike, what do you say to people about keeping up with abstinence? Because it must be so hard. Like I mean, Christmas is all about sugar. The holidays, like you mentioned, going to weddings and not being able to have a piece of cake. How do you get through the abstinence?
Disciplines. There are disciplines in. I mean, I'm part of a peer support group, of which Deb is a part. We know each other, and so it's nice of her to call in. And there are things that we have to do on a daily basis. I don't go a single day without calling other food addicts to talk to them, and just, even if there's nothing to talk about, you know, I mean, I just
how you doing?
Yeah, because
how are you getting through that day?
Right. You know, I mean, the one thing about addiction is I will forget very quickly who I am as an addict if I don't stay in constant contact with other addicts. That's discipline number 1. Discipline number 2 is that on a daily basis I write down and I report what I'm going to eat to my sponsor.
You have sponsors as well?
Yeah, so I have a mentor who I say, this is what I'm going to eat. And they will, there's never an argument about it. I know I'm going to eat abstinently. She knows I'm going to eat abstinently. But it's a committal. And so once I get it out there, I don't have to worry about it anymore. Because the problem with food addiction is I'm thinking about food all the time. When I'm in the addiction, I'm always thinking about food. So by committing it and giving it away, I don't have to think about it anymore. The other part of that is also preparing it in advance, weighing it and measuring it, and then I'll just throw it in a cooler, bring it to work.
And it becomes fuel.
It just becomes fuel for the body, right? And then it's like, it's time to eat, you eat, and then you're done. Meeting with this peer support group is very important, because again, that's part of the remembering who I am, the support. I personally, the number 1 discipline is has to do with spirituality. I have you know, I don't make any bones about it. I have a higher power in my life who I choose to call God, And the reason why I don't eat wheat, flour, and sugar today is because I believe that this higher power of mine removed from me the desire to eat the stuff, much the way back in the 1990s he removed from me the desire to drink alcohol. And as long as I maintain these disciplines, so I mean there's prayer in the morning and meditation, there's prayer at night and meditation. I'm not ashamed of that. That's a very important part
Nor
of my
should
life.
you be.
No, and it's a very important part of my life. It keeps everything, as it is.
Yeah.
There are other things I do, but those are the basic disciplines. And I think we find that when we do these things, we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. Deb, it was great for you to call in and with that validation and also your journey. Well done. Let's go now to line 5. Lisa H. is calling in from Toronto tonight. Hi, Lisa. You're live on our show. Go ahead.
Hi there, how are you? I was just phoning, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to Dr. Tarman for the recovery day and hi from all the girls at the homestead.
Hello there, Lisa.
I'm calling because my DOC is mainly alcohol, and I find that I'm substituting it with food, with sugars, and I'm gaining weight very rapidly. So I just wanted to ask is this sugar crave going to go away? I know the crave for my DOCs are probably never going to go away, but I hopefully don't want to gain weight like this forever. So how long will this crave last for the sugar? Because I find myself eating it in the middle of the night, all through the day. And it's kind of bothering me, the weight gain.
Go ahead, Dr. Tarman.
Well, Lisa, what a great question to ask, because I know everybody who's thinking, oh my God, I have to stop, how long will I live, is thinking the very same thing. And I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to ask Deb, the previous caller. She said that it was really revolutionary for her to discover she had an addiction. And I wanted to ask her, was it revolutionary to discover how easy it was to stop? And we were also talking about this earlier on. So, Mike, I want you to take it from here in a second. But, Lisa, generally what people say is if you put down the sugar, and I'm talking about putting it down. I'm not talking about just cutting down. I'm talking about putting it down. It only takes about 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It's not very nice in the first couple of weeks. But then it's like relief, freedom, gone. And it's not to say that you won't notice it, but you won't have that itch like you have right now. Why don't you talk about your experience?
For me, Lisa, it did take some time, and it's uncomfortable at first. I mean, we're brother and sister with the alcohol sugar thing. I get it, and I too, I lived a life of substituting for years after I finished with the drinking. But the thing, we have to make a distinction, I think, between craving and obsession. Okay. Craving is physical for we who are addicts. Craving is my body is demanding more of the stuff. And there is a period of time when we put a drug down where our body will continue to crave it. The phenomenon of craving will continue. The issue that I had to deal with was the obsession. And the obsession came, it went away with the disciplines of the program that I was mentioning. Very similar to disciplines that I'm sure you've been involved with when you gave up the alcohol. So it does go away. And the beauty of it is, when it goes away, it's gone. So if you can just hold on, like Dr. Tarman says, 3 weeks. For some people, I've seen it be 2 weeks, 1 week. Some it's been a couple days. But 3 weeks is a good time period. If you can mentally prepare yourself to hold on for a rough ride for 3 weeks, and 1 day at a time, 1 minute at a time, 1 breath at a time, don't pick up. And I had to look at it like that. It's picking up. It's a drug. If you look at alcohol, you look at drugs, you look at sugar, it all comes from plant life, right? And just like Dr. Tarman said, you distill it down, it becomes very potent. I think sugar's the worst of the worst.
Should you deal with an alcohol problem first?
Yes.
And then deal with the sugar? Should you do both of them concurrently?
I had to, I won't say yes for sure, but I'll say for me and for other people I've seen, I had to get rid of the one that was most lethal, that was going to kill me first.
Which is, yeah.
With the drugs and the alcohol, but then, very close second, as Dr. Tarman and I were talking about actually, in many ways, sugar kills quicker than, if a person's really addicted to it, sugar kills a lot quicker than
even alcohol.
Than even alcohol.
And I've got to go to a break, but Dr. Tarman, should you be doing them both at the same time, or should you let your body ease into getting rid of one and then the other?
I don't think we have the answer to that. I think the jury's out, that some people will say that you have to do one, the more lethal, and then the second. And I think that there's others who will say, no, you should stop them both, because it's the addictive impulse that you want to address. But the jury's out on that one. It's just too new of a field.
Sure.
Yeah.
No. But we're talking about it.
We're talking about it, thank God.
Yes,
Thank
we
you,
are.
Lisa.
We're going to take another break, but when we come back, more of your phone calls. So Ted and Susan, hang on. We're going to get to you. I'm going to get back to you right after this.
Statistics state that it is likely you know a victim of abuse. It could be a friend, a relative, a colleague. It could even be you. 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 5 boys will be sexually abused before they reach the age of 18. Please give them hope. Help us make it stop. Go to abusehurts.com and give to the Canadian Centre for Abuse Awareness.
Welcome back, everyone. Tonight we are celebrating Recovery Day here on Living Clean, Living Well. In fact, we're celebrating that right across this great country of ours. We are going to be taking some more phone calls tonight with Dr. Tarman and Mike McKinnon. Let's go to line 6. Ted's calling in from London. Hello there, Ted. Welcome to the show. The floor is yours. Go ahead.
Well, hi. I haven't got much of a very good story to tell.
Okay.
I've been around Alcoholics Anonymous for over 25 years, was sober for a long time, and picked up again. I've had a very difficult time.
Yep.
I mean, I don't drink a lot, but I drink enough to make me unhappy. And I don't know why I went back out, but it's tough. It's really tough because of the guilt. I haven't gone to meetings for a long. I always went to meetings, but I haven't gone to meetings for about 2 months.
Yeah.
And I feel really guilty about it. But if I go there, I don't feel like I want to be sober. So I don't think if I don't want to practice the third tradition, why the hell should I go there? You know, I feel so alone and empty, and it's my own fault. I realize that.
Go ahead.
Well, you know, Ted, I want to say something to you. You made this call today. That tells me that some part of you wants to stop. And one of the things that I've learned in my work in treatment centers, sometimes we send people there, they've got to go there for jail, and they don't want to be there. And I think there's no point, why are they there? And within 3 weeks, they're saying, I'm glad I came. So I think that my guess is you're calling, you're reaching out for help. Give a meeting a try. You know, we have the phrase, keep coming back. Keep coming back. And you might find that once you're there, the fellowship will draw you in. Give it a chance. Even if you go in once, try again.
Mike, did you want to talk?
Sure. You know, I think it's great, Ted, that you're reaching out. You know, you seem to have you said something that's very important, Ted. You said that you're drinking more than you're happy with. So it's keeping you unhappy, right? And that says to me that, you know, I mean, there's different kinds of drinkers. There's the binge drinker who just goes nuts and blacks out. Some people do that every day. But I think one of the hallmarks of addiction is that we do a little, even if it's just a little more than we want to, and we find ourselves doing it over and over again. But the very fact that you're on the phone right now, you're reaching out, that says to me that, you know, I have some friends in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I think I understand from them a little bit about the program. You know, step 1 talks about powerlessness and unmanageability. You seem to have an understanding of that, you know. And
But when you're struggling with the steps.
it's hard, and that's the thing, you know, is that you know, Dr. Tarman said it, keep coming back. And maybe you go back, you try a new group of people, you try a new meeting, you try new helpers. I don't know, there's 12 steps in AA. Have you done the 12 steps? You know, there's a lot of people get a lot of good results from that. So give that a try.
And like you said, you took the first step
Absolutely.
in calling in.
Yeah.
Ted, I'm so glad that we're here for you. Let us know how you're doing, and maybe watch our show if you can. If you're not, willing to go back to AA right away. Dr. Tarman, I see that look on your face. Did you have a final comment?
Well, I just wanted to say, Ted, everybody who goes out feels exactly how you feel. Give it a shot. Really, people are going to be so happy to see you again. I'm happy that you called.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't even know you.
Let's go now to line 4, and Susan's calling in tonight from Bolton. Hi, Susan. You're on the line here, and you're live on our show. Go ahead.
Yes, hi. I've been watching the show for the last 6 months or more, but I love your show, and you have so much to say, and I really appreciate it. I'm in a dark place. I have a sister who has been on prescription drugs and alcohol since 1980. She's the closest thing to me in the world. I love her to death, and I've even had her move her next door to me to try to protect her. She's been through a lot of tragedy, and I'm kind of drinking too because I don't know how to handle it anymore. So it's just a vicious circle. And I've tried to get her into rehab, and she doesn't want to. And she's a wonderful person. She's got a heart of gold, and I don't know how to help her. I've tried for the last 33 years. So I just thought I'd reach out to you.
I'm glad you did, Susan. Dr. Tarman, would you like to talk to Susan?
Yeah,
tonight?
what I'd like to say, Susan, is take care of yourself first. It sounds to me like you're hurting, and if you take care of yourself, one of the things that I've learned is that I can't tell somebody else what to do, and the best that I can do is be a model for them. So if your sister sees how much better you're doing, that's the best that you can do for her. And the next thing I would say is, what Mike said earlier about Al-Anon, but I think first of all, the first task is you, take care of yourself. Mike, do you have anything? I'm sure you...
You really said it. I mean, when you're affected by someone else's drinking or drug use, I mean, there's Al-Anon and there's Nar-Anon as well. So, I mean, you can get support if you've been affected by someone else's drinking or drug use. And the beauty of it, I can hear your pain, I can hear your suffering. I've had alcoholism in my family beyond me too, and I've had to reach out to resources for help as well, and I can tell you that there's a lot of good help out there. So I really encourage you maybe to Google Al-Anon and find a meeting. And what they say is try 6 of them. Try 6 different ones and see if there's somebody says something there that clicks with you. You're going to find some support there, and you'll finally realize you're not alone.
Is that what they're saying, to try 6 different groups?
Try 6 meetings.
Wow.
and see, because when I was new even in this food program, right? My habit is to go in there and say, I don't like anything I see here, and then run away.
Yeah, I'm not relating. Yeah, sorry, not for
Right,
me.
and so whereas if I try 6, there's surely going to be something somewhere that I find, and there always is. There's always, you get to your 5th meeting and there's someone saying something,
Yeah.
and you go, that guy's got my story.
Yeah.
Or that woman has, I want to talk to them, and you get the help you need.
Yeah.
So.
Susan mentioned that her sister has been, using prescription drugs and alcohol since 1980.
That's a long time.
Tremendous amount of time. What do you do with a family member? Obviously, Susan, she said it herself, she loves her so much. What do you do when a family member just won't seek the help that you feel that they need?
I think the best you
What
can
can
do
you
is just nothing. You just
Nothing.
have to let it go. The best you can do is offer support and take care of yourself. And if you don't take care of yourself, you won't be there when they are finally ready to ask for help, because you'll be burned out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you know when they've reached the wall? Is that when you're in the hospital with them? or-
No, they'll tell you.
They'll tell
you. I've seen people who won't reach the wall. I've seen people who are smoking with their emphysema, like their oxygen tank, because of emphysema, and they're going to die smoking. And I've seen people where it's just been, their son saying something to them that made them think, oh, I've got to stop. Everybody has their own what we call bottom.
Yeah.
And I cannot tell what that's going to be for somebody else. Best I can do is take care of myself and wait. Yeah.
Susan, I'm so glad that you found our show. I'm so glad that you're watching, and we want to reach out to you to give us a call in the coming weeks. If we've got different guests all the time, and maybe somebody else has some different ideas. So Susan, please let us know how you're doing. Let us know how your sister is doing as well. Tonight, Mike, I have to tell you, I really love your candor. He's never been on our show before, and you've brought so much to the table, which is fantastic. I'd like to give a little shout out for you. You also mentioned that you're a personal trainer. He knows about what he's talking about, and if you've just joined us, perhaps you were watching something else and you went, here they are, Living Clean, Living Well, I've missed them. We were talking earlier this evening about food addiction. Dr. Tarman's she is very honest in her journey with food addiction, and Mike is too. I'd just like to show his before and after pictures if I can, and it's been quite the transformation, really. But Mike, tell us about how people can reach you.
Well, basically, my phone number is 647-770-5368. It's up there on the screen right now.
And you've got it, you're a personal trainer?
I'm a personal trainer. I travel within the GTA. I do consultations with people on nutrition and also physical personal training. You know, I offer 2 different formats as far as training goes. Half-hour sessions, high-intensity circuit-style half-hour training sessions, and the old-school bodybuilding hour-long type sessions as well.
That's great, and I'm also going to be putting it up on our resources page on our website at abusehurts.com. So just go to our main page, find our logo, Living Clean, Living Well. Click on that, and I'll get it onto the resources page in the next 24 hours. So we'll give you a little promotion there as well.
you.
And I think it's not just promotion. I think it's a great resource because there's so many people that are possibly battling food addiction. So we've had some great information tonight on what it's doing inside of our body and the reactions that flour and sugar and wheat. You're saying it's the same thing as being addicted, to alcohol and to drugs. So it's termed as a disease, and it's so good for us to be able to talk about food addiction. Don't you agree, Dr. Tarman?
Absolutely, yes. And I'm really glad, Mike, that you make yourself known because it's a condition that's not been acknowledged. We just simply don't have the services available, but there are some available.
Yes.
And Mike, you're one of them.
That's great. We're going to take another break here on Living Clean, Living Well, but when we come back, some final thoughts from Dr. Tarman and Mike McKinnon.
I've had numerous opportunities to get into addiction counseling over the past 5 or 6 years. This one at New Awakenings really appealed to me. First off, the facility here, got a swimming pool, there's a gym downstairs. Other side of the fence, golf course, it's fantastic, and the food is, world class. The staff cover all aspects of recovery. These are people with extensive experience in the field, all with the sincere desire to be helpful. If you want a shot at recovery from drug and alcohol addiction, New Awakenings is your best bet. Give us a call, we'll get right back to you.
Boy.
Welcome back, everybody. We're going to wrap up our show tonight on this Recovery Day, September the 8th of 2013. We have been talking about food addiction, but we've been talking about other addictions as well. Mike, your final thoughts on our show tonight.
You know, if you're like me, you may be struggling with, I keep doing it, I tried every diet, I can't lose the weight, I'm at the highest weight possible, or the highest weight I've ever been at. The deal is, there is a solution, and we've got it for you. If you need help, call in, we can get you the resources. There is an answer. If you've tried everything else and nothing else has worked, we've got something for you.
And he's sitting here showing us that there is an answer. Dr. Tarman?
Well, I just want to say, I'll reiterate that the solution is not as painful as it sounds. It sounds distasteful, but it's actually pretty easy once you get through that first couple of weeks. And the other thing I want to say is I forgot to say that Toronto also proclaimed Recovery Day today. like we have also proclaimed it as an official date.
That's wonderful. Yes, right across Canada here
Yes.
today. So folks, thanks so much for joining us. I will see you again next week. And don't forget, Living Clean, Living Well, live here on CTS every Sunday. I'll see you soon.
Living Clean, Living Well has been a presentation of the Canadian Centre for Abuse Awareness.